Welcome, everybody, and I just want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. We're really kicking off a really, really important, I'll call it a marketing campaign, and a very serious level, and it's a campaign that we've been talking about for a while. New Hampshire really has been on the front lines of the opioid crisis, the fentanyl crisis, for quite a while. And we've made big investments, a lot of innovation, redesigning our systems with some real successes, to be sure. But this is an issue where you never want to pat yourself on the back and take a victory lap. We still have too many folks overdosing. We still have too many deaths. And the one area where New Hampshire, I think, has been incredibly successful is we have a system with the stakeholders that are joining me here today, and I will introduce them in a moment, but we have a system that is nimble, that can evolve with the crisis. It's something that I think for many decades, this state was trying to treat overdoses or detoxing or treatment or recovery the same way every time, regardless of how the situation might be evolving. And so now we've created a whole new system that can evolve, that can be responsive. New Hampshire, that allows New Hampshire not only to be responsive to its citizens, but really to be on the front line and lead by example across the country in terms of what we're seeing on the ground, what ideas and new tools we have to implement better solutions, whether it be in prevention or treatment or recovery. Today, we're really talking about prevention, and we want every student, we want every parent, we want everybody in the state talking about what we're discussing today, which is no safe experience. This fentanyl crisis has evolved from one where it isn't just overprescribing of pills. I think the legislature took some very aggressive and the right steps a few years ago in making sure that we were cutting that back, that we're monitoring the overprescription of pills in terms of fentanyl and OxyContin. But it's taken a kind of another evolution in terms of substances being mixed in. Thinking you're taking one thing and you're getting another. Thinking you're taking a pill so you can get better. Not as a recreational drug use, maybe it's Xanax, maybe it's Adderall, whatever it might be, and having it being laced with fentanyl. Thinking you're doing cocaine or meth. And I've talked to folks saying, well, at least I'm not doing fentanyl, but they are. It's now getting laced in without their knowledge. We've had stories across the Northeast of kids overdosing on vape cartridges because they were laced with fentanyl. This is real, it is happening, it's no longer theoretical, and we hope it doesn't come here. It is actually on the ground. And so this concept of no safe experience is really, really important, so folks are being extra attentive to what's going on, what they're putting in their bodies, where it's coming from, all the way up and down the chain. Like we said, it's not just about kids, it's about adults, it's about the elderly. We've had issues of the elderly getting some of these pills. So there's a lot of ways that this can come in. We just want to make sure that we're really attacking the prevention side of things. With us today, and I'm going to start by introducing, we have a lot of the students here from the Governor's Youth Advisory Council. And I got to tell you, this council has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they really have. For the past few years, they meet, they put real ideas on the table, they let us know what's happening in schools, they let us know what's happening in the hallways, in their classrooms, with their peer groups. So it isn't just a bunch of us sitting with suits and ties trying to make some decisions without a true understanding of what's happening at the ground level. And they've been absolutely instrumental in bringing real ideas, talking about the right types of campaign, how to talk to those peer groups, how the message can be most influential with those groups, and merge into this bigger marketing campaign that we're talking about under No Safe Experience. We have Chris Brennan. Where's Chris? The Deputy Commissioner of Education here, because obviously a lot of what we're talking about, we want this message to be in schools. We want our guidance counselors, our nurses, our teachers, our principals, everybody understanding what this is, everyone asking the right questions in terms of what other information can we get, where is it in our community, what do we need to know, because this really is an all hands on deck, everyone taking responsibility to being really part of the solution. Dave Mara is here, and a lot of you know Dave. He's my advisor on addiction and behavioral health. He and his team have really led the charge, again, being out there in individual communities, getting the feedback for what we need to know here to make the right investments at the right time in the right areas. Commissioner Quinn, Commissioner Quinn is here, as well as with Colonel Noyes. I can't say enough about our state police and our Department of Safety, because it's not just about the state police here. They have taken an amazingly concerted effort, and again, led with I think a gold standard that you will rarely find across the country, integrating local law enforcement, state law enforcement, DEA, cross-border, working with our partnering states, it is that communication is seamless. You don't find that everywhere. You really don't. And they don't just live in the world of safety and enforcement. They really take a first-hand approach in prevention, in what happens with treatment, what happens with recovery, making sure that the left hand and the right hand and all the different pieces of attacking this fentanyl crisis, all those different pieces are working together. So I just want to thank them. And the other individual here was Chris Stawas. A lot of you know Chris Stawas as well. Chris has been amazing as really the regional director of AMR, again, working with his teams on the front lines with those folks, the ambulances, coordinating with the firefighters, coordinating really with a lot of those first responders about what they're seeing, where the data is, where the hot spots are, how it's being administered, how, where we might need more fentanyl, what types of recovery methods are working in terms of, attacking the issue on the spot and making sure that, God forbid, if there's an overdose, it doesn't turn into an overdose death. And then you have that warm handoff into treatment and recovery, and hopefully the whole system is working together. But it all starts with prevention. All of these issues are I think we've done a great job of putting, I don't want to use the word Band-Aids, but we've put all those pieces in place after the crisis happens. But the most important thing, and the only thing that is going to solve the fentanyl crisis, is prevention, is making sure that we're aware and we're cognizant of it. And as a community, not just through government, but as a community, we're really embracing these solutions and the awareness and information to make sure that we're keeping this out of kids' hands and out of individuals' hands across the state. So with that, I'm going to bring up Colonel Noyes to talk about, what they're seeing on the ground here, and a lot of those issues that I think are driving the opportunity today to bring this message forward.
Thank you, Colonel. Governor. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Congratulations on your election. Good morning, everyone. Nate Noyes with the New Hampshire State Police, and I'm really excited to let everyone know that in the coming weeks, the state's going to be pushing the No Safe Experience campaign in an effort to really educate parents, children, and everyone in our communities in this state and beyond on the dangers of fentanyl. And as the governor stated, there's really, truly no safe experience when it comes to drugs. In 2022, the DEA seized over 50.6 million fentanyl-laced fake prescription pills and more than 10,000 pounds of fentanyl. The DEA lab estimates that these seizures represent more than 379 million potentially deadly doses of fentanyl, a number that truly exceeds the population in our nation. Fentanyl is 50 times more powerful than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. And just a 2-milligram dose is enough to be lethal. And you have a picture of that right over here. A lethal dose of fentanyl is the same as just a few grains of salt. The intentional and accidental mixing of fentanyl is also becoming more commonly discovered in cocaine, marijuana, and in pills. And even today, pills are being disguised to look like candy. As mentioned, over the next weeks, members of our communities will see different public service announcements for radio, for television, social media platforms. There's going to be a website created, printed materials, posters, materials that we're going to be able to distribute in middle and high schools, in colleges, in our universities. You're going to see them at the liquor outlets. You're also going to see them at our DMV locations. In addition, you're going to see digital materials, and we are going to utilize billboards throughout our state to really push the message of No Safe Experience. We're also going to work with our Department of Education to create fentanyl-related lesson plans geared towards middle and high school students to be included in health and advisory classes. These lesson plans will be made available also to private schools and to parents who decide to educate their children from home. This campaign is really to drive home the point that any substance you take that is not prescribed to you, whether you take it recreationally or you experiment with it, is not safe. And it's not safe because of the deadly presence of fentanyl and other possible illegal substances. Our goal is to educate everyone, raise awareness, and to prevent needless loss of life. I'm a firm believer that it starts in the four walls of our home. That's where those conversations starts, with our children, with our families, with friends of our children. That's where it begins, in that conversation. Well, I'm here as the Colonel of your New Hampshire State Police. I'm also speaking as a father. There is truly no safe experience when it comes to experimenting with drugs. It is my pleasure now to turn over to Chris Stawas, the Regional Director of AMR Ambulance.
Thanks, Ron. My name is Chris Dewas, and I'd like to thank you all for having me here today. I'm the Regional Director for AMR here in New Hampshire. In my role, I see the impact of the opioid crisis firsthand, the lives that are disrupted and the families that are impacted. I'd also like to share a story of Melissa LeBrun, who had hoped to be here today to share her story with you personally, but due to illness is unable to attend. 3 months ago, her son took a Percocet that he got from a person that he knew. He began to feel unwell and called his mom and asked her to come right over. She did so, and the pair decided to go out for breakfast. On the way, Melissa heard that her son was unwell and pulled over to the Seabrook Fire Station. Within 10 minutes, he was unresponsive. The fire department paramedics hooked him up to an IV, administered Narcan, and he was revived. And today he's doing well and planning to be a mechanic in his future life. The point is, these incidents can happen to anyone at any time. Melissa's son knew the individual who gave him the fake pills laced with fentanyl, and this is a great example that there is no safe experience. In all of our work, prevention is the key, and that's exactly what today's announcement is about. And now I'd like to introduce Carolyn Royer, the Assistant Director of the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Lab.
Thank you, Chris. My name's Carolyn Royer, and I represent the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory. We provide testing services for not only New Hampshire State police officers, but also all police departments throughout the state of New Hampshire. I'm just here to give you a little information about what we are seeing in our laboratory. According to DEA laboratory testing results in 2022, 6 out of 10 fentanyl-laced fake prescription pills contained a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. This is an increase from about 4 out of 10 in 2021. In New Hampshire, approximately 50% or more of drug cases that are examined within our laboratory, the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Lab, contained fentanyl. For comparison, this number was just under 30% in 2019, and it was less than 1% not even 10 years ago. I can tell you, to those of us who have been on the bench in the controlled drug unit as well as our toxicology section in the laboratory, this change really felt like it was overnight. Fentanyl as a compound was something that we used to see in our casework maybe once a month, and it's now something we see almost daily. These pills that we're discussing today are made to look like actual prescription medications, and they are made to look like actual prescription medications, some things including oxycodone and Percocet pills, but they actually end up, after testing, to come to find that they contain filler and fentanyl, sometimes in doses that could be lethal. These pills can and do kill people, and it is nearly impossible to tell the difference between a real and a fake pill. The experts in our laboratory cannot tell without the testing that they do. If they cannot tell just by looking at them, neither can you. There are certainly other frequently encountered fake pills that we see in our laboratory, posing as prescription medications. We frequently see pills that look like to be Adderall or Xanax, and they are actually found to contain methamphetamine or other chemicals that are created to mimic the effects of the actual prescribed compounds. No one should rely on looks alone, even if it appears to be an exact replica. The only way to be sure it is safe is if it came from a pharmacy and has been prescribed to you.
Tim, do you want to say something? Do you mind? I'm going to throw you on the spot. So another person, another individual that's here that's been great, Tim Lena has really been a phenomenal, a real go-to for all of us at the state level in terms of prevention. He works one-on-one, very directly with a lot of these students, with the youth council. Can I put you on the spot? Talk a little bit about what you're seeing out there in terms of the opportunities maybe in schools and some of the prevention stuff we're doing?
Absolutely.
Great, awesome.
Sure.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you all. Yeah, it's certainly, we are seeing the prescription drugs going in our schools. It's extremely dangerous. We're doing some hard education through our health classes and whatnot about the dangers of that. Very important to look at our curriculum to educate students about the risk involved there for sure, because there is no safe experience. We also look at prevention in terms of the work of communities coming together through our coalition work and our public health networks, providing overdose prevention materials to the community. All of those things are a very important part of, it's a different facet of prevention, but an important piece of it as well.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. So again, the campaign in the next few weeks, you'll see this campaign really roll out across the state. Tim brought up a great point, and these students, when I was sitting with them a couple months ago, we talked about something like health class, right? I mean, health class in schools, a lot of kids are getting health class. Making sure it's not just say no, right? It's really getting to the nitty-gritty details sometimes with these students about what we're seeing, what's out there, the dangers that they pose. The examples, unfortunately, that we've seen. There was another example of a student, I think it was in New Rochelle, New York yesterday, unfortunately, where a student appears to have overdosed on a vape cartridge that was laced with fentanyl. The amount of vaping that is going on in this state, I'm just talking as a pure parent with a couple teenagers. Vaping is absolutely everywhere. A lot of these students are getting it from all these different various sources. Sometimes it's online, sometimes it's from unknown sources, maybe it's from a friend. But the fact that it's coming in a cartridge, do not be fooled. It can be laced with these materials, and parents need to be extra vigilant about the realities that are happening, maybe even within the four walls of their own home. And that's where I think we really need to attack this the most, with families, with education to parents, having those open discussions, especially with schools. Maybe it's with a health class, maybe it's with their guidance counselors or the nurses, whatever it might be. It's an all hands on deck effort. A lot of this would not be happening without these students from the youth council, and I really can't thank you guys enough.